guys, it's Zander here, and today we're back looking at brews in Standard. This is a Bant finale deck that I put together for you guys. This is something that I'm sure a lot of people are trying to put together, or there might even be a few versions of it that already are out. I haven't seen any of them yet. This is just my version of the deck, or my take on what I'd do if I was to put it together. It's very much a combo deck, finishing with an aggro style, but I'm just going to talk about the main deck here, talk about the sideboard, interactions between, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. So to start off the lineup, I want to talk about the 4 copies of Wilderness Reclamation, which is for 4, 3, and a green. It's an enchantment, and at the beginning of your end step, you untap all lands you control. I've done Wilderness Reclamation decks before. I absolutely love the card. It unlocks a whole lot of potential with a whole lot of different decks, and this one's no different. One of the new key pieces that makes the deck do what we want it to do is the 4 copies of Teferi Time Reveler, which is for 3, 1, a white, and a blue. It's a 4 loyalty planeswalker with a static ability of each opponent can only cast spells anytime they can cast a sorcery. His +1 ability is until your next turn you may cast sorcery spells as though they had flash, and his -3 ability is you return up to 1 target artifact, creature, or enchantment to its owner's hand and draw a card. But it's Teferi's +1 ability that we're really worried about here, because it allows us to play our sorcery speed stuff at instant speed, meaning that we can interact in between the triggers of the Wilderness Reclamation. In this deck, we want to try and ramp out really hard and play some of these cool X spells that come out with War of the Spark recently. Adding to the ramp and the draw card, we have 4 copies of Growth Spiral, which is at a 2 cost. It's for green and a blue. At instant speed, you draw a card, and then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. Now, the namesake of the deck, and the reason we're trying to combo off with Wilderness Reclamation and Teferi, is the 3 copies of Finale of Glory and Finale of Revelation. So Finale of Glory is for X and 2 white. It's at sorcery speed, but we're going to be playing it at instant speed with Teferi. You create X 2/2 white creature tokens with Vigilance, and if X is 10 or more, you also create X 4/4 white angel creature tokens with Flying and Vigilance. So you can see here how this card, played on the end step with the Wilderness Reclamation triggers ramping out as hard as possible, could be absolutely devastating for our opponent, and that's what we're banking on, being able to play this and basically just win the next turn. Adding to the draw card and also to the combo is the 3 copies of the Finale of Revelation, which was for X and 2 blue. At sorcery speed, you draw X cards, and then if X is 10 or more, instead shuffle your graveyard into your library, draw X cards, untap 5 lands, and you have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. Exile Finale of Revelation. Being able to play this on our end step with the Wilderness Reclamation Teferi combo and being able to draw 10 or more cards, if we haven't got the Finale of Glory, we're probably going to be drawing into it. It's just going to be filling a handful of answers or filling a handful of stuff that we need. Insanely cool. 2 copies of Search for Azcanta, which is for 2, 1, and a blue. It's a legendary enchantment with, at the beginning of your upkeep, you look at the top card of your library, you may put that card into your graveyard, and if there are 7 or more cards in your graveyard, you may transform Search for Azcanta. When it's transformed, it becomes Azcanta the Sunken Ruin, which is a legendary land with tap, add 1 blue, and it's also got pay 3, 2 and a blue to tap and look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them, put that card into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So what's going to happen is when this guy flips, it's also going to untap with the Wilderness Reclamation triggers, which means we can do the Azcanta triggers multiple times in a turn, helping us dig for Teferi or dig for the finales, just going further and further into our deck to get the key pieces that we need. Azcanta the Sunken Ruin, absolute all-star. I love this card. To help with the mana fixing, we've got 4 copies of Paradise Druid and 3 copies of Incubation Druid. Paradise Druid is for 2, 1, and a green. It's a 2/1 elf druid. It has hexproof as long as it's untapped, and it has tap to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Because this deck is in 3 colors, and a lot of our spells are wanting 2 of the same color, I felt like the deck needed a little bit of mana fixing in it, so this is definitely going to help with that. Along with the 3 copies of Incubation Druid, which is for 1 and a green. It's a 0/2 elf druid. With tap, add 1 mana of any type that a land you control could produce, and if it has a +1/+1 counter on it, you add 3 mana of that type instead. Pay 5, 3 and 2 green to adapt 3, so you put 3 +1 counters on it. Adding to the draw card, we have 3 copies of Chemist's Insight, which is for 4, 3 and a blue. At instant speed, you draw 2 cards, and then it's got Jumpstart. So as an additional cost to play it from your graveyard, you discard a card, and then you can play it again. 2 copies of Absorb and 2 copies of Dovin's Veto for some really effective counter magic. So Absorb is just counter target spell and gain 3 life for 3, 1 white and 2 blue at instant speed. And Dovin's Veto is for 2, 1 white and a blue. At instant speed, you counter target non-creature spell, and this spell can't be countered. Just adding that little bit of protection to when we're either trying to combo off or saving our creatures from board wipes in the next turn. And touching on board wipes, we have 2 copies of River's Rebuke. This is a bit niche. I wasn't sure whether or not I wanted this or something like Cleansing Nova, so I just threw Cleansing Nova into the sideboard. River's Rebuke for 6, 4, and 2 blue. At sorcery speed, you return all non-land permanents target player controls to their owner's hand. So if we've already got the Teferi and the Wilderness Reclamation out, it's not unreasonable for us to be playing this as early as turn 4, but it will be very reliant on the matchup. Touching on the land base here, we have 2 copies of Emergence Zone, just a backup plan for if the Teferis get answered. So it's got tap, add 1 colorless, or we can pay 1 to tap it and sacrifice it, and then you may cast spells as though they had flash this turn, allowing us to do the Wilderness Reclamation finale combo anyway. 2 copies of Sun Petal Grove, which comes in tapped unless you control a forest or plains, tap for green or white. 4 copies of Temple Garden, comes in tapped unless you pay 2 life, forest plains. 4 copies of Hollowed Fountain, comes in tapped unless you pay 2 life, it's a plains island. 4 copies of Glacial Fortress, which comes in tapped unless you control a plains or island. 4 copies of Breeding Pool, which comes in tapped unless you pay 2 life, it's a forest island. And 4 copies of Hinterland Harbour, which comes in tapped unless you control a forest or island. Looking at the land base, there's no basics, but we are playing... There's no basics, but with the Wilderness Reclamation, we're still going to be able to get a fairly decent amount of value out of the stuff that is coming in tapped, if it is. But in the early game, we're going to be playing out our dual lands to kind of make our check lands come in untapped anyway. So I haven't had a problem with the land base so far. It's worked fine. And I have had to rely on the Emergence Zone backup plan to actually get the combo off in a couple of games before. So that's really good. Definitely worth running in the deck. Looking at the sideboard here, we have a bit more removal. And some counter magic. So we're running 2 copies of Spell Pierce, which is for 1 blue. At instant speed, you counter target non-creature spell unless the controller pays 2. A single copy of Sinister Sabotage, which is for 1 and 2 blue. At instant speed, you counter target spell, Surveil 1. You could stick in another copy of Absorb or another Dovin's Veto. I'm just running Sinisters in this slot. 2 copies of Root Snare for the more aggro matchups, which is for 2, 1 and a green. At instant speed, you prevent all combat damage that will be dealt this turn. 3 copies of Knight of Autumn, which is for 3, 1, a green and a white. It's a 2/1 Dryad Knight. When it enters the battlefield, you can either put 2/1 counters on it, you can destroy target artifact or enchantment, or you can gain 4 life. Really good against the aggro matchups, and it's really good artifact or enchantment removal. We're also running 3 copies of Tameo, Collector of Tales. This is more for the recursion side of stuff. So for 4, 2, a green and a blue. It's a 5 loyalty planeswalker. Spells and abilities your opponents control can't cause you to discard cards or sacrifice permanents. So this is definitely going to come in, especially against stuff like control or anything running too much black, because they are going to be throwing in the early hand hate to try and get rid of our combo pieces. So we definitely want to be running Tameo in the main board, game 2. Her +1 ability is choose a non-land card name, reveal the top 4 cards of your library, put all cards of the chosen name from among them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. But we're going to be shuffling our graveyard into our library anyway, so there's no feel bads from ditching them in the graveyard with Tameo. And her neg 3 ability is to return target card from your graveyard to your hand, which means that even without the shuffling our stuff back into our library, we're going to be able to get that recursion anyway. Absolutely love Tameo. I think she's great, especially in the right matchups. Running an effective sweeper in the form of 2 copies of Cleansing Nova, which is for 5, 3 and 2 white. It's at sorcery speed. You choose one. You either destroy all creatures or destroy all artifacts and enchantments. And against the more aggro matchups, we have 2 copies of Sanguine Sacrament, which is for X and 2 white. At instant speed, you gain twice X life and put Sanguine Sacrament on the bottom of its owner's library. So if we've got the Wilderness Reclamation out and we're going to be able to ramp really stupid hard anyway, the amount of life that we can gain from this can be absolutely crippling for our opponent. They're just not going to be able to deal that much damage, and it's going to buy us more and more time, and we're just going to take the damage. We don't care. Let me know in the comments if you like the deck. If you get a chance to play the deck, let me know in the comments how it went. That is the sideboard, and that is the main board, and that is Bant Finale in Standard. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for watching, guys. As always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to see new videos as they were released. If you like what I do and you want to support the channel, you can throw me $1 on my Patreon at patreon.com/ZandersQuest. And I will see you guys in the next video. Keep questing, guys.